fellow Falcoholics. What is up? Welcome to episode 170 of the Falcoholic Live. I am your host, Kevin Knight, joined by some great co-hosts and a special guest to start the show. That special guest, of course, is Eric Robinson himself at _Eric_Robinson. Eric, how we doing tonight?
Doing well, man. Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Happy to get Eric in here whenever we can, whenever he can get a break from his busy ESPN schedule. So really appreciate you making the time for our little show again. So yes, thank you for supporting the bit also. We also have, as you can see, Director of Guest Personnel, Evan Birchfield at Evan Birchfield. Evan, how we doing?
Doing good, Kevin. Thanks for well, I guess I can come on all the time anyways. But
yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for pretending it's exclusive. Yeah, I appreciate that. We really raised the profile of the show here.
Yeah.
Great. Good bit. Also, we have with us Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way. Adnan, how we feeling?
Feeling good. Hey, when are we going to start putting Eric's name in the title whenever he
That's
joins
true.
us?
Yeah,
special guest Eric Robinson.
Yeah. Well, if we didn't have Bob Whitfield coming on, then I would have. Yeah. So there's only 100 characters allowed, so I couldn't get Eric Robinson and Bob Whitfield in the title. So apologize about that, Eric.
Kevin actually flipped a coin between who he was going to put between Eric and Bob, and
yeah, tough call there.
Bob ended up winning out this time.
You made a better choice with Bob. He wasn't.
That's true. Yeah, but yeah, guys, Bob Whitfield will be joining us right around 9 o'clock tonight. So 45 minutes, something like that. So yeah, it will be right around 9 o'clock. We'll have Bob joining us, and that's obviously going to be a lot of fun because just a tremendous player, one of the best offensive linemen in Falcons history, part of that '98 Super Bowl team. And I think an agent now too, based on his website. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, we before we get to Bob, we will be breaking down this Falcons victory over the Panthers. Always nice to see the team get a win, and I thought this was a pretty good one. Maybe the best one of the season in terms of a complete game. And we'll also talk about this pivotal matchup with the 49ers, which the Falcons are apparently almost 10-point underdogs in. And I would consider this pretty much a must-win game if we want to realistically talk about playoffs. So, lots to get to tonight. So, since Adnan and I got to talk about the game a little bit on the post-game show, and I believe Evan got to talk a little bit on the post-game podcast with DW, which is a great program. You guys should check that out as well. But we'll let Eric take the first swing here. Eric, your big takeaways from the Falcons' victory over the let's say struggling Carolina Panthers on Sunday.
Oh, that's putting it
mildly, but
nicely.
That's generous. Yeah.
Yeah. The wheels have fallen off that team. It was only a couple weeks ago that Cam was back, and a lot of people thought a playoff run was going to ensue as a result. And now look at them. Offensive coordinator fired. They've lost 2 of the last 3, including to the Dolphins and their division foe in the Falcons. And yeah, it's going downhill. But anyway, we're here to talk about the Falcons. So, they played okay. I really feel that they left some plays out on the field, especially on the offensive end. But it was encouraging to see the run game actually, generate some positive yards, some production there, and it wasn't a game where they had to truly lean on Cordero Patterson to win this game. And again, that's somewhat encouraging because we've made the case all year, like, man, this offense is really Cordero, at times Kyle Pitts, and then no one else. But they were able to get a win without him having to have 100 plus scrimmage yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns or whatever. So kudos to the defense for getting turnovers. This is one thing that we've been pressing for all year, for years at least. They were able to generate some turnovers. But yeah, it was one of those games, honestly, where I felt like last season they would have lost it.
Yeah.
But they got a stop, got critical stops. Like I said, they had 3 turnovers. They had 2 fourth down stops. I want to say.
Yep, they did.
Which is is to me, well, of course. I mean, if you know football well enough, you can count that as a turnover. Sure, why
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
The opposing offense didn't score, and they got them off the field on fourth down, which is key. So I'll take that. But yeah, I would like to see them not leave some plays on the field because it definitely would have been more than just an 8-point game. It would have been a blowout if they were able to connect on a couple passes in the
Right.
passing game, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
all in all, they got to win over a division foe.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it
On
was
the road.
definitely yeah.
On the road.
On the road too. Which apparently the road is the new home for the Falcons.
Apparently very
so-
good on the road. This 6-2 away from the Bends. Who would have
Yeah.
thought?
Imagine if they somehow, like, I don't know the stat on this, but sneak into the playoffs and they just don't win any home games.
Yeah.
Like, just how, I wonder, like, how often that's happened or if it's
Not
happened.
very
It's just
often.
such a weird thing.
I don't know though if that would be possible. I mean, a lot of stuff would have to go right, but I don't think this team is getting
Yeah.
in by losing 2 more games.
No, and
Yeah.
I crunched the numbers on it. I'll pull it up so we can reference it at some point. But yeah, it's a bit, they can't really get in by winning just 2 games. I don't think. I think they need to win at least 3 to get in.
I will say that if someone had told me before the season the team will be 6-2 away from the Bends at this point, I'd be like, all right.
Oh, so yeah,
Yeah, so we're fighting for the division, right? Because there's no way we're winless at home if we won 6 games on the road.
You probably thought that's a what 10, 11 win team at this point or so.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we're fighting for that bye week, huh? Gonna have it out at home field in the
6-2
playoffs.
on the road. What's the record overall? 6-7. Oh,
ooh, that's not great. Yeah, definitely not amazing. To be frank. Yeah.
Then you just hear the Larry David music after the 6-7.
oh.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it was talked about that if the Falcons were to, I think, win one more game and keep their point differential about where it is now, they would be the worst 7-win team in NFL history in terms of point differential. And I think they're probably going to win 2 more games.
It's like
Yeah.
negative 100.
Yeah. I know. Who cares? It's just funny. Like, it's just funny. Like,
It's
we
funny.
could be the best bad team ever. Is basically what.
But
it is.
honestly, how many times per season do we look at the teams that are 500 and say, "Man, what's their point differential?"
Well, exactly. It's just a talking point. Like it's just a bit, but it is funny that they're like all the other teams that are 6 and 7 are like approximately around 0. And then the Falcons are like minus 110 or something.
And then the Bills are like plus 100 at 7 and 6.
All right.
Exactly.
I think it's telling about the season itself as a whole, because I think at this point in the year, this is the most teams in NFL history that are at least at 500 or let's see. No, they were either in a playoff spot or a game out of a playoff spot. This is the most at week what is this 15 of the season. We've never seen anything like this in NFL history. So where this many teams this close to a playoff spot this late in the season.
Parity is at an all-time high. Nobody's even clinched a playoff spot.
Right.
And not only with the fringe playoff teams, but even with the cream of the crop. Like, I don't think that there's any one singular favorite that's really separated themselves in either conference. Whereas, before you're like, all right, it's the Chiefs who are probably going to make it to the Super Bowl. Last year, the Bucs really hit their stride.
Right.
When Aaron Rodgers was really clicking a few years ago, and he still is, it was, all right, the Packers are going to be there toward the end, the Seahawks with the Legion of Boom. But now this year, it's like, gun to your head, who are you picking as the favorites in the Super Bowl right now? I don't think I would have, a clear, decisive answer right there.
Right.
The NFC has 3, I know there's tiebreakers, but 3 teams at the top who are technically tied.
I think both can make a claim for about 4 teams.
Yeah.
And it's 4 teams each with legitimate aspirations. And even going beyond that, even the MVP race, I think right now Aaron Rodgers is I think the betting favorite, and he's at plus 500. Like, the MVP race is a complete toss-up at this point.
Yeah. It's and there's several non-quarterbacks who should be in that conversation.
I personally think if Derrick Henry hadn't gotten hurt, he would possibly have been in that conversation and probably even separating himself a little bit at this point.
Possibly, yeah.
I think Henry's still what, 4th in the league in rushing?
Third. He's
He was
third
like
in rushing.
third.
Third?
Yeah.
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 He hasn't taken a
Ridiculous.
snap since Halloween.
Yeah.
That's
it's
amazing.
ridiculous. It's crazy.
And
That's
the Titans
amazing.
were really winning too. Like they were at the top with when Henry.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still like near the top in the AFC. But
Yeah.
also, yeah, the Titans are another one of those teams. Derrick Henry comes back fresh for the playoffs. It's like who knows what they could do.
Yeah. But with all this playoff talk we're having, I can't help but look at, the Falcons' overall record and where they are, and just look at, man, if they were able to flip that Washington game.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah.
and
That's the
instead just-
tiebreaker. It's
Yeah,
uh,
right. That's the tiebreaker. Now, I'll be honest when I say, like, even with them being on the doorstep of a playoff spot, this is not a playoff team.
They could very easily make the playoffs, but
And I
yeah.
when you
feel
look at
like-
all those other ones, it's the same kind of
and I feel like
scenario.
we're going to dread that the moment it happens, because the moment it happens, they're going to get like a red hot Packers team, and it's going to be
And beat them.
43 to
And beat them because we'll be on the road.
yeah.
Yes, only because of the road.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
right.
be road
Yeah, on
warriors.
the road,
We never have to play at home
going
again.
to Lambeau.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, we'll be fine.
43 to 8, and then we'll be sitting here saying, "How the hell did this team make like?" No.
I will say that Washington game, and that's what I remember being in the group chat. I was furious when we
Yeah.
lost that game.
Yeah,
And I mean, like, livid not because I thought the season was over, because that was ridiculous. It was so early in the campaign, but just because I knew that it would probably bite us in the ass eventually.
Yeah.
And it's really biting us in the ass right now, because we don't not only be in a playoff spot over Washington, but we'd be a game up with the tiebreaker. That's a game and a half above Washington. So, that would have been huge. And, you possibly even if you do come away out of San Francisco with a win somehow, you're talking about the two closest competitors for a playoff spot. Now you have the tiebreaker over both of them.
Yeah, but all in all, like, coming into the year, I felt like this is a 500 team, and it's December 15th, and they're on par with it. They're 6-7. They're playing meaningful football in December, which, given all the circumstances, what else could we really ask for? Honestly, like that's a feather in the cap for Arthur Smith and this new regime to have him in this place, in the middle of December, a game out of a playoff spot, with a chance. So
Right. I mean, it's been since 2017 that we've legitimately been playing games that matter in December. Like, and like the games do matter. Like the Falcons control their destiny. Like if the Falcons were to win out, just straight up win their final 4 games, which, notwithstanding the difficulty of that task, but if they were to do that, they would have an over 99% chance of making the playoffs. So it's not a guarantee necessarily, but it's basically a guarantee. Like if they win all their games,
at who the competition is in the NFC, like who's also playing for that position. The Falcons obviously need like Washington to lose, but they're dealing with a lot of COVID stuff this week, where I think their quarterback is somebody on the practice squad. I think I saw the Heineke.
Yeah, because Kyle Allen's on the COVID list, and
and
Heineke's
Heineke was hurt or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, who they got a primetime game coming up, and Kirk Cousins is usually just not great in primetime games.
Minnesota plays the Bears on Monday Night Football, and it's going to be the Eagles and Washington, and they're both 6-7. So one of those teams is going to kind of get knocked down a little bit.
Do they play 2 more times?
Washington
and Philly play each other twice. Yeah,
right.
I
think the Eagles' final games are all NFC East, unless
Washington is like they're
Washington's is okay.
They're from here on out is NFC East.
The Eagles are also from here on out NFC East. They play Washington twice, the Giants and the Cowboys. Giants and Cowboys are both at home.
Yeah. Well, I do want to continue this playoff talk, but I do want to wrap up the Panthers talk.
Isn't it refreshing?
Yeah, it is. But I want to wrap up the Panthers talk and make a clean, transition to the playoff talk.
I mean, it's just again, it was a good win. I think this is their 3rd consecutive win
in Carolina. I think
in Carolina. Yeah. So
Since
we own the
2017.
Panthers. We
since
own the
2017,
Panthers.
yeah. So I'll take it. I can't ask for much more. I mean, they beat a division team.
Yeah.
I can't really complain. I don't really need style points. This isn't college football. I don't need style points, especially when your team is not as talented as others. But
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And speaking of teams that are probably going to be knocked out of that playoff hunt, did you see Carolina's schedule?
Here's your segue here, Kevin.
Here's the seg. Yeah.
They get the Bucks twice. They get the Bills. They get the Saints. They're pretty much buried with this loss.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get to the problem is whoever's getting the 7th seed probably is having a winning record, probably 9-8. So if you fall to 9 losses, your chances of getting to the playoffs are very, very low, because then it would basically you're depending on everyone else to also lose 9 games.
And whoever gets that 7th seed, because honestly, I think with what has happened with the Cardinals, with DeAndre Hopkins being out for the rest of the year, I think it's only a matter of time until Green Bay takes that number 1 seed. So whoever gets that 7th
have it now. Yeah.
Whoever gets that 7th seed is probably going to have to either go on the road and play Tom Brady, or go on the road and play an Arizona team without their star receiver. And, they have been oddly playing miserable. Well, not miserably, but they've been playing kind of at home. Like, they just off. They're just off on the offensive side of the ball for some reason at home. So, it's a tale of 2 teams at that point, in my opinion.
Also, and I know this has nothing to do with any of the talk that we're talking about right now, but you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins getting hurt. How bad does that contract look right now that Arizona gave? Like, DeAndre Hopkins has not looked good at all this year, and he started breaking down a lot. Like, he was fine when healthy, but this is another reason, in my opinion, to not pay a wide receiver big money. At this point, I'm completely against that. Wide receivers and running backs.
Is he a couple weeks ago? Wasn't it a hamstring injury?
It was a hamstring injury, and now it's a knee injury.
It's a knee injury now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As soon as they said he was getting a second opinion, I was like, oh, his season's over. Whenever you hear that, it's the kiss of death.
Yeah, nobody gets a second opinion on something that's good.
Yeah.
It's like, you're healthy. No, I want a second opinion.
Yeah. Chase Edmonds is dinged up right now.
Playing.
I
think I saw so.
Yeah. Chase Edmonds is dinged up right now.
John
JJ's
Connor.
out for the year.
It's tough.
Tyler's not 100%. It's not looking good.
Connor's hurt.
It's rough over there in Arizona, and that's the thing. Like, I think Arizona's like the least onerous team that could possibly win the Super Bowl from the NFC. So I would have been cheering for them. So I hope they can still get it together. But
and they had J.J. Watt in the first
half
of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So they've just been sort of hit big. But I mean, that roster is definitely one that's built, I think, to last more than this year. Like, they've got Kyler's in place, and they've got some pieces. So I'm hoping they can either recover this year or next year, because I think it's fun. I think the Cardinals are like a non-evil team, Like, I like when there's non-evil teams,
like
doing
I think they're a fun team when they're 100% healthy. I'm talking about with DeAndre, no questions, JJ, no questions. I feel like they were definitely a serious threat.
Yeah.
And the Rams as well. The Rams is another team. Man, did they look good on Monday night?
They did. Yeah. I know we talked a great length about the Panthers game on our post-game show, so I don't think we need to spend too much time on it. But, I think it was worth noting, John Kaminsky played well in his first real game action at edge, so it's nice to see him out there. The defense, obviously, as a whole, played well. Michael Walker getting his pick 6, that's great. AJ Terrell had the pick. Probably he could have had another crazy pick too. That he almost caught behind him.
Pick.
Yeah, that would have been nasty. Gave up the touchdown to Robbie Anderson on the island. Yeah, but
and you know what? One thing I did see from this game that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit, or just make a point of, man. The blitz schemes from Dean Pease. You can tell he not necessarily threw some things together, but he definitely confused Cam Newton, especially on that Michael Walker pick 6.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at that a couple of times, and it would have been hard to figure out who the hell was coming on that play anyway.
Yeah.
Literally everybody was lined up at the line except 3 players. But that was something that I saw that I really, going forward, another encouraging sign about this scheme and this defense. Like, man, if Pease can really upgrade some spots here, man, he can have some fun with this defense because he just how exotic he can get with his blitz packages was definitely something that I saw on several occasions against Carolina. But all in all, like I said, it was a good win, solid win. Couple of things that stood out that I wish they were. I hope they can capitalize on a little bit. Again, leaving in the passing game, man, they left some plays out there. I think
they did. It was not one of Ryan's better games. I mean, I think he was sharp with some stuff, but those couple of deep passes that he missed, those were costly, and it's unfortunate. But I think on the whole, Ryan had a solid day, but it definitely wasn't one of his more memorable performances. But obviously, you wish that he hit Tajay Sharp there. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it was a pretty comfortable win for the Falcons. Freaking Quadrillison doesn't just cough up the ball. they just run the clock out on that drive more than likely. So
the Carolina may not even see the ball at that point. Like, come on, man.
So
really?
Considering what they did on the next drive, which is just ran the ball without any problem whatsoever. So Olsen was running the ball well, but it's just you can't put the ball on the turf. You just can't do that. Right. So
again, and also Jalen Mayfield was in run blocking. Jalen Mayfield was okay.
Yeah,
he was okay. Pass protection.
still not that great. Yeah, still not great. But it was one of his better games overall.
Yeah.
So definitely, good on Mayfield because he needs to show big growth to close out the season, or he's going to get a veteran competing with him next year. And he should probably either way we should bring in a veteran either way.
Still get a veteran competing
either way. Yeah. But because the situation behind Mayfield is such that he could be playing like the worst guard in the NFL, and we're still going to start him. So we need, some other option just in case that happens again. But it's I'm glad at least it wasn't that bad. Evan, did either of you have anything else that you wanted to add about this game? Obviously, the running game continued to work. That was nice. Russell Gage still stepping up. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we continue with our sort of playoff talk and 49ers discussion?
I wish that we can see Michael Walker for more than 6 snaps.
Yeah.
That's all he had?
Yeah, he had 6 snaps in that game.
And one of them pick 6.
He registered like a 99.5 PFF defensive grade. So, and I know PFF gives a lot of benefit for big time turnovers, which is what he forced, and great job to him. But I definitely think he's earned more snaps moving forward at this point. And also, by my count, had he played 18 snaps, he would have had 3 pick 6s. So, that's something to consider moving forward.
That math
I get
checks
a pick
out.
6 and you take me off the field. That's what we're doing, Coach.
Yep. It was a very clever defensive call. I love that.
The coach wouldn't be able to take me off the field if I got a pick 6. I'm putting on my helmet and I'm getting back out there.
Yeah, try to get me off the field. Try. But, I think it was their most complete performance so far, and it comes at the right time because we're obviously hoping that they can continue to play complete football and create turnovers because they're probably going to need it. They're probably going to need it to get it done against the 49ers because they really can't afford to lose this game. Now, technically, a loss against the 49ers doesn't doom them, but it means you have to go 3-0 the rest of the way. You can't lose any more games.
You have to win in Buffalo.
Yeah, you'd have to win in Buffalo, which I think you don't. I think if you go into Buffalo and it's we could lose this game, I think they're actually in some ways more likely to win because you're not going to be as tight. You're we could afford to lose this game. It's a non-conference game. You're much better off if you leave the Buffalo game as the one you can blow. Because I think the Bills are going to be energized for that game. They're going to be fighting for their own playoff chances. The Falcons need to be able to lose that Buffalo game. They need to be able to do that. And the game doesn't really matter in terms of the playoff seeding for the Falcons very much because it's out of conference. But the 49ers game is the most important game on the schedule for a lot of reasons. First of all, getting the head-to-head tiebreaker over San Francisco is big, considering what you guys were saying. The Falcons have already lost the tiebreakers to Washington and to Philly, who are 2 of their biggest competitors for the 7th seed. And they have a chance to lose their tiebreaker to New Orleans at the end of the season, to where it'll pull even again. So, like, maybe that'll matter, maybe it won't. Hopefully, I mean, I think we're sort of hoping the Falcons beat them, and they probably have to beat them. But
that is at home.
That is at home, so it's very dangerous for the Falcons. But if the Falcons beat the 49ers, they immediately quadruple their playoff chances. And this is the only game on the schedule that does this. If you beat the 49ers, your playoff chances go from 12 to 42. And if you win out the rest of the way after beating San Francisco, so you go if you win all 4 games, you're going to the playoffs. If you beat San Francisco, lose to Buffalo, and win your other 2 games, so you go 3-1, I believe they have a 75% chance to make the playoffs. So very likely at that point. If they lose to the 49ers, the highest chance they have of making the playoffs, I think, is 40-something, even if they win the other 3 games. It's just, it's not likely. If they're going to win with a 9-8 record, they kind of have to beat the 49ers because they're going to be depending on other teams to lose in order to make it work at that point. Philadelphia and Washington would both have to come in,
and Minnesota too, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if the Falcons.
I kept playing with that ESPN playoff machine, and Minnesota would keep popping up ahead of the Falcons.
Yeah, it might be because of conference records, so I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It would probably depend on exactly which games the Falcons win and lose, but yeah. So they have to win this game. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So I guess where I'm trying to go now is can they win this game? Odd and on. Is there a chance for this to happen?
Of course, there's a chance. I mean,
that doesn't sound encouraging.
No, of course
there's
always
a
chance he can hit the lottery too.
Yeah.
No. The 49ers are a good football team. They're clicking right now, which isn't a good thing for the Falcons. They are 9.5-point favorites in this game. Which is actually a lot when you consider the fact that both these teams have the same exact record. But the 49ers aren't exactly the 2020 Kansas City Chiefs or 2019 Chiefs. They're not a team that kind of puts the fear in you when you're oh my God, it's the 49ers. This isn't the 49ers
right.
from a couple of years ago, the team that went to the Super Bowl.
The team that the Falcons should have beat? That one year?
The Falcons did beat actually that year, ironically.
Yeah.
That was the Julio Jones game, 2019, where Julio had a monster performance, and they just pulled it out at the very end. But San Francisco, they are heavy favorites for a reason. They are absolutely starting to click. Deebo Samuel has been one of the best wide receivers in the NFL this year. He's coming back. I don't know how limited he'll be by that injury that pulled him out of the last couple games, but he's incredibly explosive. They're doing the Cordero Patterson stuff with him where, they're lacking some stuff at running back so due to injuries. So Kyle Shanahan's kind of started playing him as running back, and he's been absolutely amazing at it. A guy who isn't limited by his injuries anymore is George Kittle, who missed, I think, a month with the lingering calf injury. The last couple of games has been absolutely incredible. And last week against Cincinnati, he had that incredible catch to put them in field goal range in overtime to win that game. A couple weeks ago, he scored a couple touchdowns against the Seattle Seahawks. He has had some struggles this year, but he's definitely looked like the George Kittle from 2019, who was arguably the best tight end in the NFL. And, he's really clicking right now. Jimmy Garoppolo has never inspired confidence, but, he's definitely getting the job done. You have Trent Williams, who's been, I think, probably the best left tackle in the NFL this year.
Having the best offensive tackle season ever per PFF. He has a 99 grade. I don't believe it can get much higher than that.
His run blocking is a 99.
I think the 4 of us have 99 grade as well.
Yes, for our podcasting performance,
Yeah, those are PFF analytics.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa, has been. Nick Bosa has 14 sacks this year.
Quietly.
Yeah.
Do the Falcons as a team have 14 sacks
Probably
this
not.
season?
I think they do, but not many more than that.
Yeah, Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead has also been very, very good on the interior of the defensive line. And, you can only double team one of them at a time. So that's going to be a pick your poison type thing. I would lean toward, giving some extra attention toward Nick Bosa. But the offensive line really, really has to be on its game in this one because, there aren't many players in the NFL. There aren't too many pass rushers who can absolutely take over a game. But Nick Bosa is definitely one of those guys where if you let him get going, he can completely change the outcome of a game. We don't know exactly what their running back depth is going to look like with Elijah Mitchell still dealing with a concussion, but probably might not even matter because they have Deebo Samuel there.
Right.
They have Brandon Ayuk, another explosive guy. Like the 49ers have a lot more talent than the Falcons do, and it's going to come down to coaching, and it's going to come down to can Arthur Smith outcoach Kyle Shanahan, and can the Atlanta Falcons defense kind of get a couple turnovers to go their way, because the great equalizer when you're talking about a talent discrepancy is the turnover battle. I feel like if the Falcons lose the turnover battle, they're going to lose this game. They, if anything, have to win this turnover battle, probably by at least a couple of turnovers. So,
yeah,
no fumbles by the running backs is what I'm saying.
Yes, please, God. Yeah.
But yeah, it's I wouldn't objectively pick the Falcons to win this game.
Objectively,
but, you never know. Maybe they any given Sunday. Maybe
any given Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, they have the same problem that the Falcons do, which is that they're bad at home.
I think they're 2-4 at home.
Yeah, they're 3-12 or something over the past 2 seasons at home. So they for whatever reason just play really bad at home. So that's really what the Falcons are hoping for, is probably a bad 49ers performance, a classic bad home game from them. Probably similar to the last time these two teams played in 2019 in San Francisco, which was just a bad performance by them, strangely. But before I want to take a quick break here, just to let people know to please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the show. Those metrics really help us out. Thank you guys for that. For our patrons or anyone who's interested in becoming a patron, the patron Q&A is Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got Dave Choate and Gina Kelly, maybe some more folks coming on for that. And that will be Friday at 6. If you're interested in joining up with the Patreon, you haven't done that yet, you can go to patreon.com/Falcoholic Live for all the details there. Thanks to all of our patrons now for the first year of the Patreon, and we've got a lot more things in store for you as well going forward. Then before we get back to the analysis, George Costanza with the $3 says, so you're telling me there's a chance? Surely you can't be serious. There is a chance, George, but they have to win this game. If we want to keep talking playoffs, they have to win this game. If they win this game, it's very possible. If they lose this game,
scenarios in that case.
Yeah, if they lose this game, it's probably.
If you lose it, you need everyone else to just go 1-3.
If you lose it, you're sort of just rooting for all these other teams to lose, and that's not a situation you ever want to be in. So, so just some stats, for people that they're 2-4 at home this year, the 49ers. So they've been vulnerable there. They're 20th in scoring defense, so that they've been a vulnerable defense. They're better in terms of yardage. I think they're 8th. They're quite injured at corner, but they've actually been the 6th best passing defense in terms of yardage. But in terms of the run, they're actually, average to below average. So they're vulnerable to the run. They've been a pretty good offense in terms of rushing and passing. They're 14th in passing, 8th in rushing. So that's been a strength for them. So this is a team that, probably right. 7-6 is about right. Surprisingly, despite the Nick Bosa, Arik Armstead combo, their overall pressure rate is not very good. I think it's only about 20%. So they get a lot of sacks, but in terms of pressure on a per play basis, they're not necessarily generating a ton of consistent pressure, but Nick Bosa has shown the ability to sort of take over games if you can't block him. So that's really what the Falcons have to try to avoid, is just letting Bosa sort of take over the entire game.
Out of that 20%, I think Bosa accounts for like 13 or 14%.
Probably, yeah. So, probably between like Armstead and Bosa, it's like almost all of the pressures. So this is a defense it's really relying on a couple of stars, and Fred Warner's been hurt as well. So that, is another star on their defense that may or may not play this week. Like you guys said, Elijah Mitchell still in concussion protocol. We'll see what happens there. Go ahead. Yeah.
So a couple things stand out to me. They played well, very well as of late. They've won 4 of the last 5. And the only loss was a one score loss on the road at Seattle, which they probably should have won that game. And they were within they were inside the 5.
Yeah.
Going in the score, right? I think it was something like that. I think it came down to that last possession of the game. But one thing that stood out about me, their in that 5-game span, their defense forced 11 turnovers. And I think they've only allowed over 100 yards rushing in 1 of those 5 games. So they have been playing very well, especially on the defensive side of the ball, even with the injuries. It's not a great time to play them right now.
Right.
It really isn't, because not only have they played well, has Garoppolo played well, but the last 4 or 5 weeks is when the Niners have really, and Kyle Shanahan in particular, have really started to use the dual threat ability of Deebo Samuel. It really wasn't much of a case until the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think he had like at least 6 carries in each of the last 3 games. And he's had, I think, 4 rushing touchdowns in the last 3 games as well. So they're hot right now. You guys pointed out earlier in the show, George Kittle is playing out of his mind right now as well. It's a tough draw. They're even getting Ayuk involved, which
somehow
completely non-existing over the course of the first 2 months of the season, 2.5 months of the season. But you made a great point as far as the turnover battle. I think that's the one stat they need to win. No questions asked. They need to win the turnover battle in order to have a chance in this game. So we'll see. It's tough to defend this team as it is. It's even tougher when you have injuries in the secondary and you don't have a pass rush whatsoever.
Yeah, that's obviously not great. The saving grace is that Garoppolo is not a great quarterback, and he is prone to mistakes and has made them on occasion, especially at home. So he turned the ball. There was 3 turnovers at home against the Cardinals in Week 9, 4 in Week 7, 2 in Weeks 4 and 3. So that's really been their Achilles heel, is when they lose, they turn the ball over, and they do turn the ball over at home. So the Falcons have to take advantage of that. They have to get some of those turnovers and shorten the game, flip the script, and then, the Falcons probably have to play like a good to great game to win, pretty much.
Damn near flawless.
Damn near. Kind of like what they needed to do against the Bucs, and they did not, So, they need to play like a good to great game to win. And I think they played a good game against the Panthers, but I don't think that sort of performance is going to be enough against the 49ers.
No. They got to win the turnover. I honestly don't believe, guys, this is going to be a game where we're going to see that run game get going. I think this run game is going to get bottled up a little bit. So this is probably going to have to be a game where Matt Ryan's going to have to win it. He's going to have to make some plays in the passing game. Not saying he can't, but this is just the way it's stacking up in a certain way. So again, the turnover battle is key, but this is Arthur Smith's going to have to roll back his sleeves a little bit in the passing game this week, even though he's playing a secondary that's not, a formidable one. It's not a great one. They've been playing, average football for the most of the season, but the run game is going to get there. You're going to have to come up with a short passing game to prevent from Nick Bosa breathing down Matt Ryan's neck. It's going to have to be quick. It's going to have to be efficient. You know what? I don't mind having 11, 12, 13 play drives that take up 5 or 6 minutes and they're getting 4 or 5 yards a pop. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean, they might need to do that this time, and I think the secret to beating Bosa is you have to try to run through his side. Not that he's a bad run defender. He's just a better pass rusher.
They'll have to do that, but they'll have to do it with the short passing game, not the run game. Because normally in situations, you're leaning on your run game to just get yards and eat up clock. But I think they're going to have to utilize the short, quick, efficient passing game to get the ball down the field in an efficient and methodical manner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I it's a tough draw. Yeah, I mean, Evan, did you have a take on this game? Do you think that the Falcons can possibly pull this off? Where are you sort of leaning on this one?
I don't really, but that also gives me hope that they might, because there was a couple games this season where I didn't really see them winning, and they just did. And also the fact that, as Adnan mentioned, this 49ers aren't great at home. And the Falcons have been, their best football's been on the road. So, I mean, that kind of plays into the Falcons' favor. But, I mean, the 49ers are a good team. I know they're 7-6, and people have pointed that out in the chat. But they're a good team. They've got a lot of good players. It's just more of if they're healthy.
Is better in their record.
Sure. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's easy to look at the record and think they must suck. But when you really look at, like, the talent they have, I mean, if they don't have Elijah Mitchell, I think that'll be big, because he's been a big part of their running game. Obviously, Deebo Samuel kind of does the Patterson thing where he plays running back too. And going from Jeff Wilson, who's not a terrible running back, but not efficient to where like Elijah Mitchell is,
right.
That would be a downgrade for them. Also worth noting, George Kittle didn't practice today because of knee soreness. I mean, I'm sure he's going to play, but so that's something.
Keep that in mind.
But yeah, this team also, regarding the record, they also haven't been healthy regarding their offensive weapons. Like I mentioned, Kittle missed a whole month because of a calf issue. Deebo missed the last couple of games. Brandon Ayuk, like Eric mentioned, wasn't even part of the offensive game plan, and now he is. Their running backs also, they've had a revolving door, but Kyle Shanahan is just, you can put one of us at running back, and I'm sure we'll be able to get like 60 yards in a game in Kyle Shanahan's offense. So yeah, this is a team that they're also kind of getting healthy at the right time, at least regarding offensively. So yeah, that's another reason for a bit of the apprehension. Also, I don't think it's the worst thing that this game isn't at home, because I'm sure there will be a few 49ers fans in the stands if this game was at the Benz. So, it's saving the Falcons from a bad look. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And they may not have they may not have the services of Elijah Mitchell, but that's what makes their run game so diverse, because they can always line up Deebo. And to be quite honest with you, Brandon Ayuk is Deebo Samuel light, to be honest with you, the way they utilize.
The only thing that's held him back is they didn't really use him.
They just didn't use him. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like he just sucked weird. Or something. Like they just,
I
think there was games where he had maybe like one target.
Yeah.
Just weird.
Use him. One thing that I noticed a lot on tape, they orchestrate a lot out of shotgun with Ayuk, with Garoppolo being flanked by Ayuk or Deebo, or a combination of both, which is that's going to be tough to defend, And in many cases, they like to do pre-snap motion with Deebo lined up in the slot or at X, and he motions into a running back position pre-snap, and of course that's a dead giveaway. He's going to run the ball, but still, it's not just a situation where they come straight out the huddle and Garoppolo's under center and Deebo's back. Like, no, they're really diverse with their looks, with their pre-snap looks as well. Yep. So,
all right, guys. Well, that's a good note, Eric. And on that note, we have a Falcons legend. And joining the show here, we've got Bob Whitfield coming in now. Bob, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can see you too. Perfect. Yeah, you won't be able to see me. That's not on your end. That's
Silver
all me.
Fox.
So, how you doing tonight, Bob?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm excited about this. Can
Yeah.
talk some real football.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming on. It's awesome. I know a lot of fans are real excited to talk to you, guys. He is Bob Whitfield of 1998 Falcons fame, former first-round pick, Pro Bowler extraordinaire, man with a long and storied career. I believe it was 12, 13 straight seasons starting for the Falcons. So, just a real honor to have you on. Thanks again for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's 12 seasons here in our great city, and then I did a year in Jacksonville with Jack Del Rio, and then finished up with Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning up in New York with the New York Giants.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, all in all, you missed Atlanta, didn't you? Missed the Falcons.
Oh yeah, this was a great time in the ATL. This was the city went through a lot of different monikers during my time, but we were the original Dirty Birds, and we were the ones that really got the city moving and grooving that year, and played some solid football. So I think the fans are definitely itching to try to get back to those great years, and even the years that were short-lived in that but debacle, in the Super Bowl. But I said, hey, they weren't the first to lose the Super Bowl. We were.
Exactly. That's a good perspective. Yeah. It's rough. Yep.
Bob, do you think you could suit up for a couple snaps this weekend? The Falcons may need some help along the O-line.
Look, I'm glad you said a couple, because that might be all that I can give you. There's a couple, but I have to give those guys some credit when credit is deserved, and I have to give them some smacks across the head when they deserve it too. But I said, for the most part, you definitely got to beat the teams that you're equally matched and should beat. So what they did with Carolina, I said, they should have done that with that team. They were equally matched, may have been better in some areas, but what they have to look forward to this week going against the 49ers, you're like, hey, some of your undermanned positions, some of your newbies like Mayfield, he's going to have to put his big boy pads on and really give a tussle out there.
Yeah. And then brought up a couple snaps, man. To be quite honest with you, we may just need you out there to chip Nick Bosa a little bit. That's probably all we need. You think you can give him an elbow or forearm shiver or two coming off there just to slow him down a little bit?
Well, I think what you're going to have to do is you're going to mix it up against Bosa, because you see teams have been moving him around from different sides. So basically, they've been trying to find matchups, whether it's he's on the left end, right end, or he's coming with stunts. So I think the part of chipping and doubling or having extra hands on Bosa has to come from receivers that's looking like they're going to crack back, come from fullbacks or running backs, come from tight ends in motion. It just got to come from a plethora of different ways so that you can knock him around a little bit to make it advantageous for your line.
So keeping it on the theme of the offensive line, Bob, what have you seen from the Falcons offensive line this year that you dislike, some improvements that you would like to see here and there? What's one thing you've observed?
Well, I knew going in they were going to have to play some young players, maybe even a rookie player in the starting position. And it was going to be, how well does that guy hold up? And I must say that in big-time matchups, our young rookies haven't held up. Mayfield haven't held up in a big-time matchup. But, our young centers, Dahman didn't hold up in a big-time matchup. But as a unit, for unit growth, you had enough time on the field with Jake Matthews as the anchor, with filling in that new interior at center with Hennessy and Dahman. But then that right-hand side has been the same two guys from the last 2 years. So we know that these dudes are still growing into their football prowess, their capacity to stop the top-notch defensive players. However, as a unit and a unit working together, I still give them good progress that they can compete well enough that if you game plan for some premier guys like a Bosa, these guys should be able to hold up. It's just when you have to put them on too many back-to-back drives of where one-on-one matchups can expose our weakest link, then the weakest link, who I think is the young players in Mayfield, will be exposed.
Yeah.
I.e. Tampa. That Tampa game, I
Yeah.
can't help it.
That's a rough matchup for him with Vita Vea and all those guys. I mean, it really they threw Mayfield to the wolves. I mean, it was to take a guy who had played left tackle his entire college career, tell him you're playing guard. Oh, and right tackle. They're telling him, okay, now you're going to go day one. You're going to go play guard, and you're going to play left guard. It was expected that he would struggle.
And Bob, can you just speak on just how difficult a transition like that would be made so abruptly to go from, playing right tackle for so long and then to just be thrown into a left guard position?
And see, I would think that it could be easier because of the tackle having to go against guys in space, movement guys, so that the short area quickness of a tackle moving inside to guard would be something he adapts to. Maybe moving from right to left is something that, hey, now you're learning a new stance and your feet are learning some new things. But what I saw in the Tampa game was you never realized grown man strength when it was coming at you. So now you just got a different rookie type of thing that you got to get through. Like, them is a rookie growing pain that, he's a big strong guy, but he's not that strong yet to handle that level of speed and quickness in a one-on-one battle in a crucial time. So it's sometimes you do sacrifice. It's like, send some help that way. But I think if you can allow him to soften those guys up in the run game and stay ahead of the sticks, he gets you great snaps. He gives you great service out there. But if you're behind the chains, you're vulnerable.
He went from covering undersized defensive ends in the Big Ten to taking on Fletcher Cox in his first game. Like, that's
different.
That's a huge transition, man.
It's a big time transition, but it's one of the transitions I think that they gave us the precursor that somebody young was going to be in the mix.
Yeah.
And it happens to be Mayfield. I think as a coach, you want to protect them, but that means all these other things got to work right. That means first down runs have to get 4 yards each time. Yeah. You can't be first down, run the ball, and only get 2 yards, because more chances than not, the coach is not coming back with a run again. So it's things that teams' defensive salivate on, is that, can you get this rookie player in a vulnerable position? And can you get that young guy matched up to where he's on a one-on-one ISO?
Yeah. Yeah, well, what do you think about, obviously early in the season, the Falcons' offensive line really struggle with run blocking, and as we know, run blocking is a lot about chemistry. So is there anything in particular that you've noticed over the last few games where they've, run for over 100 yards each of the last 3 games after being, 30th in the NFL in rushing up until this point?
Usually run blocking, it comes from dedication. And you have to dedicate yourself to running the ball. The same team they played last week, what they said, Brady was fired as the offensive coordinator from Carolina because he didn't dedicate to running the ball. So when you got a thick back like Mike Davis, he heats up the more carries he gets. So it's almost like you have to feed him the ball. It's that moniker that Ezekiel Elliott does. You got to keep feeding him. Is really what it's saying, is that to be successful in the run, and where Arthur Smith came from was a running attack that fed a big dog running back. You got to keep feeding that running game so that those early misses, you just can't say, I'm going to turn away from the run. I'm going to go back to it. So even if I don't get 4 yards on first down, I just can't scrap my whole running attack. Go back to it again. Get your line hungry for some good mash blocks where they can go downfield and hit some small dudes on the run. And then it just opens up to what we like, play action pass.
Yeah.
Speaking of Arthur Smith, year one, man, what are you thinking about him? What are you thinking of him right now? How's he holding up in your view, from your viewpoint?
Well, he's done a noble job because he didn't quit. So
So already,
with all the
yeah.
the pressure on him,
Oh, that's a little jab.
everybody's talking about him. He didn't quit, so we like him for that. He went through about 30 different look changes, from full beard to maybe mustache to a little bit of goatee. I'm waiting for a mohawk and some earrings. But for the most part, I see a coach dedicated to what he's trying to resolve this team to, but I don't know if the team buys in. It seems like somewhere from week to week, there's this selling pitch that he has to do to get them to buy in from each week. And maybe it's because the long-term defined stars like Julio Jones, they're gone. But it's one of those things is that I think as long as the players are concerned about their outcome, they can trust enough in what he's trying to do for this team that I feel that they have talent that they can be, successful and competitive. But that any doubt in that locker room, any rumblings of concern in the locker room, I feel you'll see a fall off in play that you can't recover from.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely sort of a tenuous situation with the roster, and he's been missing some guys that he was probably expecting to have. So I definitely think it's a good job by him to have gotten 6 wins out of this team, and potential for more, obviously, with games against Detroit, which I think we all probably are hoping is a win, and probably hope for the Saints sweep as well. That's a big one. But they do have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs if they beat the 49ers this weekend. Do you see that upset happening, or do you think it's a pretty tall task?
I mean, it's definitely a tall task. If I had to say who was going to be favored going in, I would give it to the 49ers.
Yeah.
And that's only because of the home field. But when I look at the matchup, the matchup football, I say they got as many weapons at tight end as we have at tight end.
Yeah.
At running back, I put our running backs on the matchup with their running backs. Their offensive line has some seasoned guys, but their oldest seasoned guys, really, youngest seasoned guys, like 2 years in the league. So our right side is some 2-year young guys. So I said from a matchup standpoint, I said we can hang with them. We can hang pretty good with them. I think we match up well with them, and we might even have the advantage in a couple key positions, except we don't have that Deebo Samuel guy, And I said our Patterson, as much as we try to use him, is not the way that they use Deebo Samuel. And I just say that's the guy that the defense has to stop, and if hopefully he's still, I don't know if he's still questionable leading into the game, but he's the one that Deebo Samuel and Kittle's on the field at the same time. That's a tall order, a tough sled right there.
Yeah, very tough. It's going to be a key, obviously, to try to limit what those guys can do, and we'll obviously monitor the health of those guys as well. Kittle missed practice today with what they were calling knee soreness. I don't believe his status for the game is in question, but definitely worth monitoring going in. Evan, Adnan, you guys have any questions for Bob? I know we had some from the chat as well, but I wanted to give you guys a chance first.
Yeah, I had a question just, Bob, regarding your career, the longevity of it. So from 1993 through 2002 for the Falcons, you started 159 out of 160 games, all along the offensive line. And, we know that the offensive line, you're clashing every single time. It's not like a wide receiver where they're not going to be in the action every single time. But I wanted to ask of course, there's some good fortune in there as well, but what goes into, starting that many games, and, what did you do regarding your, off-season workouts, your pre-game, your pre-week routines to help you get to that level of longevity?
I think a lot of the fortitude that it takes is what you do every day. So on the days that you're down at practice or you're feeling sluggish, is how do you elevate your play on those days? Days in the off season when maybe you just didn't feel like getting up early. What did you do to get up early that day? So I think it's a culmination of a lot of good luck, but then just a lot of added motivation, a little bit of lagniappe, a little bit of extra that goes in to say, I think I can make my guys better. I can do a little extra. I can play a little harder, run a little faster, stay on my feet a little longer on these blocks, and just have more success. So it's one of the things I permeate to younger athletes, whatever. Once you start playing football, everything hurts. So I got to be able to play through hurt. Hurt, yeah, that just happens. But injured means there's something I can't play through. And the thing I was most scared of was being injured. Yeah. So I try to, avoid injury by playing smarter, stronger, faster, and all that. So it's one of those things that I think you definitely have to be fearless. Because when you have to go dig somebody out of a block, you just got to dig them out. Yeah. Can't be worried about if my shoulder is a little sore. It's just, hey, do it and get through. But I think for the most part, it's just a dedication so that even when you're hurting, you're still trying to get back and put some hurt on that opponent.
Yeah, that's great.
I have a question. You probably get it often, but playing in that interesting period from the early 90s into the early 2000s, who were some of your favorite teammates on the Falcons?
I would start from the earliest ones were, of course, primetime Deion Sanders. It's because you got to experience Deion, got to learn from Deion, one of the most prepared players that I ever witnessed, just as far as his pregame preparation to his film study of his opponents, to knowing the schematic of the team, to how much time he spent on his meticulous wardrobe. So I got all of that, my shoe game, my sock game. You get it from Deion Sanders in prime time. And then there was, flamboyancy. We had Andre Rison. We had flamboyant players. Jamal Anderson, the Dirty Bird. It was a mix of guys, to just quiet, the quiet played his guitar was Bobby Christian. But when you come around that mix of guys, that's what makes the team a whole. So when you have a wide complexion of guys, different backgrounds, different colleges, different things, but then they bring all of that and make it like your Falcon culture. Yeah. So we used to have meals at my house, and then it was exotic foods from all over. But the guys was like, man, this is how you bond with each other. So it's always good. It was good bonding years. I just remember playing in those early teams in the Falcons, because you got to remember, even when Deion was here, we were still scrapping, and San Francisco 49ers was the team to beat back then. Right. So just like this weekend.
Full circle. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, we got a question here from one of our most common long-time viewers. He goes by George Costanza. Unclear on if he's the real George Costanza from Seinfeld or not. But he asks, Bob, you were drafted, of course, by Jerry Glanville. Mostly, however, you played for June Jones and Dan Reeves during your time in Atlanta. Obviously, those are polar opposites on offense. So what was it like to transition from that run-and-shoot scheme to that more conservative run-based attack later on in your career?
I tell you what, it was the toughest training camp I ever went through, because when we were with June Jones, and even with Jerry, June Jones was the offensive coordinator, the long period was our one-on-ones when the 7-on-7 was going on for the receivers, the skill positions. So we were doing a lot of pass blocking. But as soon as we get Dan Reeves in, and we're changing the mix-up of how many times we're going to run a game, now we have all these individual run blocking drills. So it was just one of those things. It was like, I thought I had like that model neck, like long neck, super trying neck, and then all of a sudden I had the little short, grumpy, thick neck. like, oh, I got a football neck now. Thanks, Dad. You done messed it up for my modeling career. But it was just, to me, I liked it because now my whole football IQ was changing. Like, we were doing double team blocks versus zone blocks. The whole football thing was changing. So I had to learn new techniques, refocus, learn new things. And it was a level of toughness that I said, you could not emulate this level of toughness in your play in the run and shoot. It was just hard to do.
Yeah, completely different. That's yeah. Okay, we got from Jason Gaines, another longtime viewer. So he says, first of all, thank you so much for protecting Chris Chandler's blind side during the 98 Super Bowl run. And then he's got two quick questions for you. First of all, what was it like to block for Mike Vick? I know you guys had a couple years together. And then also, did you have a particular Falcons running back that was your favorite to block for?
So I'm going to start with the Mike Vick question. I used to always get mad at Vic just because I'm like, Vic, stay in the pocket just a tad longer, yo. We got these blocks working in our favor. And then you see him shoot out, you be like, oh, man, now the chase is on. So it was because I said Vic was young when I had him in his career. I remember his first game stepping on the field in season action was actually against the 49ers. Imagine that.
Yeah, wow.
He put on his Carmex in the huddle. It wasn't even Carmex. He had chapstick. He must have had a chapstick deal. He took his chapstick out the little recesses of his helmet and put it on. Make sure he called the play with some good, nice, moist lips. And, he called the play. But it was one of those things that Mike Vick was a 1 or 2 read guy. And that third read was, I'm jetting out of there. But when you've been blocking for Chandler, Chris Chandler is like a 4 or 5 read guy. He's blocking receiver on the right, tight end, he's on the left, the little check down route in the backfield. He even waiting on the running back that was blocking in the backfield to release the block and go out. Like, yo, Chandler, you waiting on the penalty of intentional grounding, how long he would hold the ball. It was a stark contrast from Vic. Vic was quick with it. It was 1 or 2, and if it ain't there in 1 or 2, I'm out of here. But he was a great teammate just because it changed just how you had to defend. You had to contend with him running, so it changed how teams played us. Some guys didn't rush, some guys. So it was an awesome time with Mike. Yeah,
kind of a harbinger of the future of the NFL
question.
Too. Yeah.
I got the running back. So the fun ones, of course, Eric Pegram, which many won't remember Eric Pegram from back in the run and shoot years, and then we stole one with Craig Ironhead Hayward.
Yeah.
And he would unleash some of the vicious blocks. So Jalen Mayfield needs an Ironhead Hayward in running back.
Yeah.
Because he would soften up those dudes, And of course, I had Jamal Anderson in his prime, and then Tiki Barber in his best year in New York. So, and I mention Fred Taylor down in Jacksonville. So to be around these explosive players, to be around guys that definitely left their mark on the league with their running style and ability, I was always astonished because if I had a bad block, these were dudes that still made me look good.
Every now and then, your former teammate Keenan Forney would be on here as well, and he got tossed that same question as far as protecting for or blocking for Vic, and he would always say, like, man, you'll block for Vic, but it will only be for like a couple seconds, because most times when he takes off, you're not even realizing that he's gone, that he took off and he's gone. But he also said the same thing that you said about the transitioning from a run blocking scheme to kind of sort of like a run and shoot type thing, or even just transitioning to that type of offense with Vic back there, man. That's a different transition right there.
Yeah.
To kind of harp on that a little bit, if I can, Kevin.
Yeah.
the evolution of the offensive lineman from when you started to when you retired, like to even now. What is one thing that you're seeing right now that you probably never envisioned to see from offensive linemen, when you started, when you first got into the league?
Well, I was always biased because I wanted them to consider the line a skilled position, and I was just mad that they didn't say we were skilled guys,
Yeah.
But it was the thing that I said that with offensive linemen, what you ask them to do goes beyond most other positions. We got to be strong going forward, strong going backward, fast going sideways,
Yeah.
and all these different angles and all these different blocking schemes. And we play all these plays. And then I said, what changes is they thought that we were only big, nasty players. But what you saw with maybe Tristan Wirfs in Tampa was that these were big, agile, elite players
Athletes,
that can
yeah.
move, that block on screens, that get downfield, that can move a big man, can chase down a small man, can smart enough to have multiple plays in protection and in run schemes, and really do some phenomenal things out there on the field, and then pound you out with the good ground and pound late in the game that can enforce, their will upon you. So to me, I made offensive linemen, and any young offensive lineman that I work with, I make them the best athlete on the field.
Yeah. And the O linemen are the ones that are in action every single play. Like there's gonna be a collision every single snap.
Yep. Yeah, there's no running a little, break route where you can kind of go half speed on the offensive line. You do that, your quarterback about to get killed. So
I said we don't have a duck. We don't get the duck. I said because even when we try to go low, that's a strategic block to cut someone, because you can't whiff. So it's like from the skill set, and I try to make sure all the linemen that I get to experience, young ones, even if they're Pop Warner, I don't want them to feel that it's just, because I'm big, that's why I'm on the line. Because I'm the heaviest guy on the team, that's why I'm on the line. I do want them to understand how to move that weight around and be athletic and be proud of their size, because I know for young athletes or young kids coming up, being the big guy is getting ridiculed. But for, a football star, being the big man on campus is a notch on your belt. So I want them to have some pride, but I also want them to know that they do have to be this athletic, because you're going to have to pick up a 300-pound defensive lineman and maybe a safety blitzing off the edge on different plays where you got to be big and strong or big and fast. So take pride in what you do. Be the best athlete on the field. That's for my big guys out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. I'm glad that the position is getting more and more love. We're seeing offensive tackles go number 1 overall, in the past couple of years and things like that. So I'm glad that people are starting to appreciate all aspects of the position because it is truly a mental, physical, athleticism, and strength sort of position. Like, you can't be deficient in any of those areas and be a great NFL offensive lineman.
They're getting paid a lot too.
Yeah. So go get your money, guys.
You got it like that. But what you've seen is the change where it was always thought to be just the tackles that are on the high up list. But now you're getting centers and guards getting first round, picking up in the first round. So it's the importance of that unit itself. And even from the recent rule change or CBA change with, they added extra for practice squad that it's mandatory to carry offensive linemen, 8 offensive linemen. It's the most valuable position you have if you're going to keep putting $100 million, dollar contracts on the quarterbacks. Yeah. These are the dudes that got to protect them, so they got to be high value too.
That's another thing that's evolved a lot, of course, since you started to now. The free agency dollars, man. I'm pretty sure the money that was poured out then, when you first came in the league compared to now, man, it's a signing bonus now. what guys were getting then.
Yeah, but I always say that becomes relative because of this league is built on perpetual success every year, more successful than last.
Yeah.
The players want the salary cap to go up every year. So if you was the highest paid in the position last year, it might not be the same this year because guys are growing upon your salary. I think what happens is you have to definitely create what we call that good product on the field. You have to win games, so when you have lulls in the team where you're not winning the games, but you got a bunch of high priced players, now you get into that nitty gritty of being the GM. And anybody ever played GM on video games, they know, like, yo, it's about the dollar and cents amount. Even if you're playing fantasy football, you're like, yo, I want all these top guys, but I don't have enough money in my fantasy draft to pick them all.
Yeah.
So you have to be wise on where that dollar goes. And with the salary cap concerns, they just like Atlanta, they knew it was going to be tough to keep Julio around if Julio's not on the field.
I missed that guy.
But they never expected Julio and Ridley not to be on the field.
Yeah.
So I said, next man up gets an opportunity to be like, hey, I'll take that new contract because I'm the next man up. That's the nature of this game. That's the nature of this beast that we all love. But I said, each year, somebody expects a raise. I know that.
Yep. It's always how it is. And that, I'm glad for the players. They are getting, I think slightly, it's sad, but they're getting like slightly more of the, percentage of income on the new CBA. So that's nice. And, hopefully these practice squad rules help guys stick around, guys that normally wouldn't have gotten a chance. Now with the expanded practice squads, I'm hoping a lot more guys, get opportunities to sort of stick around, develop for a year or two, when on the old, 10-man squad, they might not have gotten a shot. So happy about those rule changes. Hopefully we see, expanded rosters and that stuff going forward too. But I'll believe it when I see it, I guess, man. But all right, we got George Costanza again. He wants to, he says, no one ever mentions Chris Dolman when people talk about the greatest pass rushers. Bob, do you have any memories of playing Chris Dolman?
Of course. And CD got to grace Atlanta's presence. And one of the things that Chris brought to the table was he was the mixture, hybrid size defensive end, where he was big, but he was lean, but he was strong, but he was heavy, but he was light. And he was articulate with his moves, with his hand placement, with the things that he did. So I got to experience him the best when we were teammates, and I got to practice against him. And I always said he had them granddaddy hands, them hands that your granddaddy's put on your shoulder. Granddaddy, what you doing? Like, anytime he touched you, he was like, what you doing, granddaddy? Like, why is so much pressure? But to me, he was the pro you learn from. So you would watch his skills, his manner. That's why he's Hall of Fame, is that he was a guy that knew how to play football, not only with extreme elegance, but also with a viciousness that it was like, man, Chris, you're supposed to be walked through, dog. You just broke my finger, man. What's up? I was just trying something. Hey, man, you're trying on me.
He was ahead of his time, man. Huh?
Yep.
As far as a pass rusher.
For sure. All right, we got just a couple more for you, Bob. You got time for a couple more?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
All right. We got Corey Carter, another longtime viewer. He says, Bob, in regards to the 98 Falcons team, when did you know that team was a different team than the past years? And he also wants to know, what was it like to run out of the tunnel in the Super Bowl?
I say about that team, it was probably the season pass where down the stretch, we just started winning games. We weren't going to the playoffs, but we just started winning games, and the camaraderie was grown up then. And it was almost where when you can take even a momentum of a non-playoff season and take that forward with the same bunch and take some of the camaraderie things that you did all into the next season and put it back together. Good training camp, start the season off, and then just start rolling. It was one of those things is that I said, if you ever felt it, like, yo, we felt something. We knew something was like, okay, it's happening. And it was happening great in our favor. But I said, even through the pitfalls, coach gets ill, we still had to win a game. I think it was Detroit. It was the guys could corral with each other. And like you say, when you're running out the tunnel, even though we ran out the tunnel singular style, at some point, I think we should all run out together. That's what we wanted to do. Like, all run out together because we knew it was a together factor that got us there. And it was one of those things that it was the best year and the worst year for we all know reasons that happened that year. But all that aside, I just said it was a year that you got a lot of just people, different personalities, different backgrounds to gel together and make something work. So best year ever as a Falcon.
And speaking of that year, that was the year you made the Pro Bowl. Just how special was that for you in your career when you received that that notification that you're going to the Pro Bowl?
You know what? That whole year was great, but I said it didn't. That whole Pro Bowl thing, because it was after the Super Bowl, it lost its luster to me, I must admit, because I was just so wanted to be the champion. Like, no, because I knew how hard it was going to be to get back and how many teams rarely make it back. So it was the Pro Bowl year. I was just like, oh, it's bittersweet. But I do have a sweeter year. And when it was the year, and they have his tribute documentary show coming out, and I'm definitely gonna have my jacket on that year. And I believe it was 1996. I made the All Madden team.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that was better than any Pro Bowl year. When John Madden talked about me making an All Madden team, I was pumped. I couldn't even fit my All Madden jacket then. It was all tight. I lost a few pounds. I can slide it on now, but I made that All Madden team, and it was because I knew, like, John, like Coach Madden was on it with how he looked at a player, and he just didn't look at just the standard stuff. Oh, your team has the leading rusher, best thrower. He looked at how you played and all that. So I just felt like of all the great honors, that was my best honor in professional sports, was to make the All Madden team.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Corey also added, thank you so much for always representing the franchise with such class. So thanks, Corey, for the question as well. All right, we got one final one from George Costanza. He wants to know who had the bigger helmet between you and Craig Hayward.
Oh, it was Ironhead. Everybody said I had a little Beetlejuice head. That was the joke. That Bob got the Beetlejuice head. I did not have a small head. I'm just so wide across that my head next to the shoulders, it might get a little Beetlejuicy, right? But Ironhead had a meatloaf head. He had that size 8+ head that the helmet kind of works front and backwards versus side to side. But he needed that head because he would lay that whop on you. See, that's when you could hit. Look, they changed that rule.
Yeah, it's probably because of him.
And knock you out.
Yep. Yeah, he had that thick skull, so it was just too powerful. That's why they had to change the rules. So,
hey, man, he had to live up to the moniker somehow.
Yep.
Oh yeah. But that was a good question. I like that one.
He also says, I assume it hurt when he ran in your back. So,
look, it's when a running back in it. Look, for the Pop Warner kids or Pop Warner coaches and dads, make sure they keep their eyes open when the running back run through there, because it's the elbow that they hit when they run through there.
The funny bone.
That funny bone.
Oh,
That's the one.
And it ain't
That
funny,
takes
right?
block is hell to pay.
That's some insider information right there. That's what I wanted from tonight's show, is to get that
That's some
tidbit.
coach
I
speak
appreciate
right there, man.
Yeah,
That's what that is.
This is great, guys.
Yeah.
I actually have one more question. So you played your college days with head coach Dennis Green, and then obviously you beat the Minnesota Vikings, coached by Dennis Green in '98. Did you ever talk to him about that? Did you ever have any communication about, oh yeah, like, you know, we won that game afterwards?
Oh, of course, because Denny was like a father figure to me at Stanford. And it was one of the things is that when I declared to come out early, he sure did declare too, to leave early. So he left Stanford, went to Minnesota. I asked him, hey, take me with you, coach. He said, we're not drafting high enough to get you. He was right. So to play them, and then one of my old teammates, Chris Walsh was on Denny's team. He had a couple other Stanford guys. Dave Garnett was on that team. But it was one of those things that to see your old coach across from the sideline, it was a brief hug before the game. Good to see you, coach. Hey, good to see you. And then like all business, because that we knew was going to be the toughest place to play, and that team was strong. It was Randy was a rookie, you know.
Yeah.
Chris Carter, Randall Cunningham, they were strong. Kicker never missed a kick all year. Then he missed a kick that day.
Yep.
So basically, what you're telling us is that Denny Green left Stanford because you were declaring, right? He couldn't.
Yeah, he left because I left. Like, I can't lose my best guy. I gotta go too.
Yep. It was good timing for him. Yeah, for sure. You know, definitely not. No, it's good to know that, you know, you have that kind of power over your head coach. So that's always something you can put.
And then you got to remember they brought in Bill Walsh.
Yeah.
That's true. That's funny. All right, yeah, guys. Anything else for Bob before we sign off?
It was a pleasure having you on here, Bob. This was great. You know, we tried to. I guess the show as a whole this year has tried to, you know, to cast out that net of getting some current players and former players. We've had Andre on here before. Keenan's been on here several times as well. But, you know, to have you on here, man, it was a pleasure for you to stop by and give us some of your time.
Hey, thanks, guys. This was great.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys. He is Bob Whitfield, Falcons legend. He is also on Twitter at WhatUpBob. Again, Bob, thank you so much for coming on. Also with us tonight, we have Eric Robinson at @Eric_Robinson. Eric, anything else you want to plug before we wrap up?
I don't have anything to plug, man. Honestly, just I guess you're going to make me do it anyway. Catch NFL Live 4 to 5 p.m. on ESPN Monday through Friday.
Yes.
Kevin makes me do that.
Yeah, no, we got to make sure, you know, Eric left us, Bob, to go to ESPN. You know, he left our humble blog to go be an ESPN guy. So we have to make sure that, you know, everyone knows that. So
I couldn't say no, man.
No, I don't blame you. You know, it's just we also have with us Adnan. You can say which way on Twitter. Adnan, anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up?
Yeah, Fantasy Stud and Dud every Monday, series history, and what if we win or lose every Saturday. And yeah, just check out the Falcoholic for all of your Falcons needs and reading pleasure.
Absolutely. And finally, we have Director of Guest Personnel, Evan Birchfield, who you guys can thank for getting Bob to come on the show. Evan, in addition to being wonderful and helping us get some truly fantastic guests on here, anything else you'd like to let the people know about?
No, just thankful, you know, for obviously Bob Whitfield coming on the show. You got to pinch yourself sometimes, to realize, like, these are people you watch. Bob, I don't know how familiar you are with Falcoholic, but we cover the team, but we're all Falcons fans first. Like, we all started different, you know, obviously different scenarios on how we became fans, but we've been fans, you know, our whole lives and continue to be fans and cover the team. So, having you on was a real treat from a personal perspective, but also, you shared a lot of knowledge with us. And, if you ever want to come back on, you're more than welcome. It was great having you on.
Yeah, just say the word. We'll always have a spot for you. So,
For sure.
Yeah, guys.
Hey, guys, I appreciate this. This has been great. And be sure to tune me in every Saturday, 9 a.m. on Fox 5 Atlanta for Play to Win. I'm on there with Chuck Smith and Terrence Mathis, both Atlanta Falcons legend, Chris Marler, who covers college, and of course the lovely Nikki Williams is our moderator host that makes sure we don't fight each other, because we still get competitive when we talk our football.
Wait, you got to show with an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman on it.
We had Chuck on here a couple of weeks ago.
We had Chuck on here too. Yeah, so it's the whole group. I'm glad. I don't live in Atlanta, so I don't get Fox 5, but that sounds like a show I would definitely watch. So I definitely recommend everybody in the market to check it out, because that sounds like a lot of fun with these guys on there. And thanks again, Bob. We really appreciate you making time for us, guys. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. Just check out the site, all that great content. Just looking forward to this 49ers game. Apparently all things lead back to the 49ers, as our conversation with Bob showed tonight. So
can we get a prediction from Bob?
Bob, what's your prediction for this weekend?
Y'all would ask me that prediction.
Yeah, you almost got out of here. Yeah, almost.
Look, I'm not ready to make it yet.
Okay,
I
that's
need
fair.
to see the injury list at game time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. We almost got him. He's too clever for us. We'll have to figure it out.
I thought he was going to give us one. I thought he was going to call one.
But yeah, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Those metrics both help us out. Leave a comment. That apparently helps with these weird YouTube algorithms as well. Check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. Q&A's coming up on Friday with some great guests. Until then, guys, we'll be back on Sunday for the post-game show, hopefully celebrating a Falcons upset victory over the 49ers. But either way, we'll be here. Thanks again to Bob for coming on. Thanks to Eric and Adnan and Evan for helping out tonight as well. For all of you guys, thank you as well. Until next time, we will see you on Sunday, folks. Have a great night.